A woman in her late 40s walked into Judge Judy's courtroom as if she owned not just the building, but everyone inside it. Her blonde highlights were perfectly styled. Her designer sunglasses worth more than most people's monthly rent rested on her head. And her Chanel blazer could have covered a semester of college tuition. Gold bracelets jingled on her wrists. A diamond tennis bracelet caught the courtroom lights. And her Louis Vuitton bag probably cost more than the average American savings account. This woman was Rebecca Ashford. Though anyone who had ever dealt with her had another name for her, Karen behind her. Looking like a man heading to his own execution was her husband, Martin. His expensive suit was wrinkled, sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning, and he kept tugging at his collar as if it were strangling him. Martin was a successful real estate developer worth over $8 million. But he looked like he'd give every penny just to be anywhere else to Rebecca. Was in court because she had been sued by a 22-year-old college student named Maria Rodriguez. Maria worked as a barista at an upscale coffee shop in downtown Providence, making minimum wage while putting herself through community college. Her alleged crime, according to Rebecca, was getting a skinny vanilla latte order wrong not once, not twice, but 3 times, according to Rebecca's dramatic retelling. What happened next wasn't just a complaint to the manager or a harsh Yelp review. She grabbed the coffee she claimed was incorrect and threw it directly into Maria's face. The scalding liquid hit Maria's cheek, neck, and shoulder, causing second-degree burns that would leave permanent scars. When Maria, screaming in pain and shock, tried to pull out her phone to call for help, Rebecca slapped it out of her hand so hard it stared on the tile floor, while other customers rushed to help the injured young woman. Rebecca had the audacity to try to get Maria fired, threatening the manager with her husband's supposed influence in the city. But it got even worse. Rebecca wasn't just defending herself in court. She had filed a countersuit against Maria, claiming the barista had assaulted her first and caused her severe emotional distress. According to her lawsuit, Maria had been verbally abusive, had deliberately made drinks incorrectly to antagonize her, and had staged the entire incident to extort money from a wealthy family. The sheer audacity of this claim would have been laughable if it weren't so cruel. A young woman with permanent scars on her face was being accused of orchestrating her own assault for a payout. Martin knew this was ridiculous. Everyone who had seen the security footage knew it was ridiculous. But Rebecca had convinced herself this was a winning strategy, that her money and status would outweigh objective reality. However, Rebecca was about to make a mistake so catastrophic, so monumentally foolish, that it would destroy not only her case, but her entire life as she knew it. While Judge Judy was reviewing the evidence, watching the footage that showed exactly what happened, Rebecca did something that made the entire courtroom gasp. She interrupted the judge mid-sentence and said something so shocking that even the bailiff's jaw dropped. Her husband. Martin's expression shifted from worried to horrified in an instant. He grabbed her arm, trying to stop what was coming, but it was already too late. The words were out of her mouth, and they would cost them everything. This wasn't just ordinary courtroom disrespect. It was career suicide for Martin's business, social suicide for their standing in the community, and the beginning of the end of their marriage. If you've watched this far, don't miss the end of the video. Like the video, sit back, and enjoy the story. Because what you are about to witness will be the most expensive 5 words a Karen has ever spoken to Judge Judy. Those 5 words will cost Rebecca her reputation, cost Martin his business contracts worth tens of millions of dollars, and turn their privileged life upside down in ways they never imagined. This is the moment when entitled arrogance collided headfirst with a judge who has seen it all and refuses to be intimidated by anyone, no matter how much money they have or how many designer labels they're wearing. What happens next will be shared millions of times across social media. analyzed in law school ethics courses, and remembered as a cautionary tale about what occurs when privilege collides with accountability. It was Tuesday afternoon in Judge Judy's courtroom. The bailiff's voice rang out clearly through the room. The case of Ashford versus Rodriguez. Rebecca strutted to the defendant's table with the confidence of someone who had never faced a real consequence in her privileged life. Martin shuffled behind her, his expensive Italian leather shoes making soft, apologetic sounds against the floor, his entire demeanor begging for the ground to open up and swallow him whole. Judge Judy looked up from the bench with the penetrating gaze that had intimidated thousands of defendants over the years. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Ashford." Rebecca didn't make eye contact. She waved her hand dismissively as though swatting away a bothersome insect and glanced at her diamond-encrusted watch. "Let's just get this over with. I have a spa appointment at 4, and I really can't be late." "No, Your Honor." No basic courtesy. No acknowledgement that she was standing in a court of law. Just pure, distilled entitlement dripping from every word. Judge Judy's eyebrows rose slightly, though her voice remained controlled and professional. "Mrs. Ashford, you're here because you've been accused of assault and battery against a young woman named Maria Rodriguez. You allegedly threw hot coffee in her face, causing severe burns, and then destroyed her personal property. How do you respond to these charges?" Rebecca actually laughed a sharp, condescending sound that made several people in the courtroom wince. That girl is lying through her teeth. She's just another one of these millennials trying to get money from successful people who actually work for a living. "I'm the victim here, Your Honor, not her." Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. "Mrs. Ashford, I haven't finished reading the charges." "Please don't interrupt me when I'm speaking." Rebecca rolled her eyes so dramatically it could be seen from the back row. "Fine, whatever you say. But this whole thing is completely ridiculous and a waste of everyone's time, especially mine." Martin reached over and grabbed his wife's arm, whispering urgently, "Becca, please just let the judge talk. You're making this worse." Rebecca yanked her arm away and hissed back at him, loud enough for the microphones to pick it up. "I don't need you telling me what to do, Martin. I can handle this myself. Just sit there and be quiet." Judge Judy watched this exchange with the practiced eye of someone who had seen thousands of marriages fall apart in her courtroom. She made a note on her pad and continued, "Mrs. Ashford, let me ask you directly, did you or did you not throw hot coffee at Maria Rodriguez?" Rebecca straightened in her chair, as if convinced she had a perfectly reasonable explanation. "She made my drink wrong 3 times. 3 times. What was I supposed to do? I'm a paying customer. I have standards. If she can't follow simple instructions for a basic coffee order, then maybe she shouldn't be working in customer service. Maybe she should go back to school and learn how to do her job properly." The young woman at the plaintiff's table, Maria Rodriguez, visibly flinched at these words. She was a pretty girl with kind eyes, but the left side of her face and neck bore angry red scars that were still healing. Her hands trembled slightly as she kept them folded in her lap. Judge Judy turned her attention to Maria. "Ms. Rodriguez, please tell the court in your own words what happened that day." Maria's voice shook as she began to speak, her accent revealing her immigrant background. "Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford came into the coffee shop around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She ordered a skinny vanilla latte with extra foam. I made it exactly how she ordered it, but when I gave it to her, she said it wasn't right. So I made it again. She said it still wasn't right. I asked her what was wrong with it so I could fix it. And she started screaming at me that I was an incompetent immigrant who should go back where I came from." Rebecca scoffed loudly, making sure everyone could hear her. "I never said that. She's making that up to make me look bad." But Maria continued, tears streaming down her scarred face. "She said I was too stupid to understand English. that people like me were ruining America and that she was going to make sure I got fired. When I tried to make the drink a third time, she grabbed it out of my hand and threw it right at my face. The coffee was so hot, Your Honor. I couldn't see, I couldn't breathe, and all I felt was burning. Other customers had to pour cold water on me while she just stood there screaming that it was what I deserved for wasting her time. Judge Judy's expression shifted from professional neutrality to something harder something. That made even the court reporters sit up straighter. Mrs. Ashford, those are very serious allegations. Before we continue, let's take a look at the security camera footage from the coffee shop. I want to see exactly what happened that day. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, inspecting her perfectly manicured nails with feigned indifference. Sure, let us watch it. There's nothing on those cameras that proves anything except that girl's incompetence. Martin, however, had gone completely pale. He leaned toward his wife and whispered desperately, "Becca, honey, maybe we should talk about settling this before we watch the video. Please, I'm begging you." Rebecca turned on him with pure venom in her voice. "Be quiet, Martin. I mean it. There is nothing on that video that will hurt us. Stop being such a coward." The monitors in the courtroom flickered to life, and everyone watched the interior of the upscale coffee shop. The footage was crystal clear and the audio even clearer. Rebecca stood at the counter, her finger jabbing repeatedly at Maria's chest as she spoke. The microphones picked up every toxic word. "Do you even speak English? Are you stupid or just lazy? I asked for a simple drink, and you can't even get that right. What country are you from?" Because clearly they don't teach basic comprehension skills there. Maria remained calm despite the verbal assault, her hands steady as she remade the drink for the third time. "Ma'am, I'm trying my best to make your drink exactly how you want it. If you could just tell me specifically what's wrong, I can fix it." Rebecca's voice on the video rose to a shriek. "What's wrong is that I'm dealing with third-world incompetence when I'm paying premium prices. I don't have time for this. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who my husband is?" The courtroom watched in horrified silence as the Rebecca on screen grabbed the freshly made latte and, without warning, hurled it directly at Maria's face and upper body. The young barista's scream of agony was clearly audible. She stumbled backward, hands clutching her face as steam rose from her burned skin. Other customers jumped up, one shouting to call 911, another rushing to get ice, and there was Rebecca, standing in the middle of the chaos, not helping, not apologizing, but continuing to scream, "That's what you get for wasting my time. That's what happens when you people don't know your place. I spend more money in 1 week than you make in 6 months. And you have the audacity, the absolute nerve, to argue with me about coffee." Maria, tears streaming down her reddening face, managed to pull her phone from her apron pocket with shaking hands. That's when Rebecca struck again. She lunged forward and slapped the phone so hard it flew across the room, shattering on the tile floor. "You're not calling anyone. You brought this on yourself." The coffee shop manager rushed out from the back room. "Ma'am, I'm calling the police right now. You need to leave immediately." Rebecca whirled on him, her face twisted with rage. "You're calling the police? Do you know who my husband is? Martin Ashford. He owns half the commercial properties in this city. One phone call, and this coffee shop will be shut down by tomorrow. You'll all be out of jobs. Every single one of you." In the background of the footage, Martin could be seen entering the shop, presumably called by his wife. He took in the scene, the burned girl being tended to by customers, his wife in the center of the chaos, still screaming threats, and pure horror crossed his face. He grabbed Rebecca's arm, trying to pull her toward the exit. "Becca, we need to leave right now. Come on." She shook him off violently. "Get your hands off me, Martin. I'm not done here. Judge Judy paused the video, and the courtroom sat in stunned silence. Even audience members who had witnessed hundreds of cases looked shocked by the cruelty they'd just seen. Rebecca, unbelievably, seemed entirely unfazed. She was checking her phone, scrolling through messages as if she had just watched a weather report instead of evidence of her own violent assault. Judge Judy's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. Mrs. Ashford, you just watched yourself assault an innocent young woman. Use racist language, threaten her livelihood, destroy her property, and attempt to intimidate witnesses. Do you have anything to say about what we all just saw? Rebecca looked up from her phone with an expression of boredom. That video doesn't show the whole story, Your Honor. It doesn't show how she provoked me with her attitude and her incompetence. It doesn't show the disrespect I had to endure as a paying customer. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping into that dangerous quiet tone that everyone familiar with her courtroom knew meant someone was about to be demolished. Provoked you, Mrs. Ashford. Please explain to me how making a coffee incorrectly justifies giving someone second-degree burns. Rebecca actually shrugged a casual gesture that made Martin close his eyes in despair. I was expressing my frustration as a customer who expects quality service. If the coffee hadn't been so hot, she wouldn't have gotten burned. That's not my fault. Coffee is supposed to be hot. Maybe she's just overly sensitive and looking for a payday from someone with money. Judge Judy stood up slowly from her bench, and the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Anyone who had ever watched her show knew exactly what that meant. This was the moment when patience ended and judgment began. Mrs. Ashford, I'm going to do something I rarely do, she said. I'm going to give you one opportunity, one single chance to show even a shred of human decency. I want you to look at Maria Rodriguez. Look at the scars on her face that she will carry for the rest of her life and apologize for what you did to her. If you do that, if you show genuine remorse, we can discuss reasonable compensation and move forward. Rebecca stared at Judge Judy as though she had suggested something completely absurd. Apologize? She said, apologize for what exactly? For expecting competent service, for standing up for myself as a customer. Martin grabbed his wife's arm so tightly his knuckles turned white. Becca, for the love of God, please just apologize. Think about the business. Think about our reputation. Think about what this is going to cost us. Rebecca yanked her arm away violently, her voice rising. Let go of me, Martin. I'm so sick of you being weak. Why should I apologize to someone who can't even do a simple job correctly? Why should I apologize when I'm the one who was wronged here? Judge Judy's eyes narrowed dangerously. Mrs. Ashford, you assaulted an innocent woman. You caused her permanent physical injury, destroyed her property, and subjected her to racist verbal abuse. I am trying, against my better judgment, to give you an opportunity to show that you're capable of basic human decency and remorse. I suggest you take it. Rebecca stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The entire courtroom tensed. Martin's face had gone from pale to completely white, as if all the blood had drained from his body. He was mouthing the word no over and over. But Rebecca wasn't looking at him. She was staring directly at Judge Judy with a look of pure arrogance and contempt. What for? I didn't do anything wrong. She's the one who should be apologizing to me. I had to deal with incompetent service. I got coffee stains on $3,000 Australian blazer. And now I'm being dragged through this circus of a court when I should be at my spa appointment. If anyone deserves an apology here, Your Honor, it's me. I'm the real victim in all of this. The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs of disbelief. Judge Judy stood completely still, her expression hardening into something that made even veteran court watchers afraid for Rebecca. When she spoke, Her voice was quiet, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "Mrs. Ashford, I have been on this bench for 25 years. I have seen thousands of defendants. I have heard every excuse, every justification, every attempt to avoid responsibility. But what you just said might be the most delusional, self-centered, and cruel thing I have ever heard in my courtroom." She leaned forward slightly. "I'm going to give you one more chance. Think very carefully about your next words, because they will determine everything that happens from this moment forward." Rebecca took a step toward the bench, and the bailiff instinctively moved closer. She leaned forward, looked Judge Judy directly in the eyes, and with a smug smile that would haunt Martin's nightmares for years to come, she said 5 words that would destroy everything. "You don't scare me, Judy." The courtroom exploded. People gasped. Some even shouted. The bailiff stepped between Rebecca and the bench. Martin let out a sound that was half groan, half sob, and said aloud, "Oh my God, Becca, what have you done? What have you done?" He dropped his head into his hands, his whole body shaking. Rebecca, still riding high on her own arrogance, didn't seem to grasp the magnitude of her mistake. She crossed her arms and stood there with the same smug smile, apparently believing she had won some kind of victory. Judge Judy allowed the chaos to continue for exactly 10 seconds. Then she raised her hand, and the courtroom fell into instant, terrified silence. When she spoke, her voice was calm, measured, and absolutely terrifying in its control. "You don't scare me? Interesting." She paused. "You know, Mrs. Ashford, in 25 years on this bench, I've heard a lot of stupid things come out of people's mouths. But that statement, those 5 words, might actually be the dumbest thing anyone has ever said to me." She let that sink in before continuing. "You seem to be operating under several delusions. First, you think that because you have money, you're above the law. Second, you think your wealth entitles you to treat other human beings like garbage. And third, you apparently believe this courtroom is some kind of joke where you can say and do whatever you want without consequences." Judge Judy picked up her gavel, and the sharp crack of wood against wood made everyone jump. "Let me educate you about reality, Mrs. Ashford. For assault and battery causing permanent injury to Maria Rodriguez, I am awarding her $47,000 to cover her medical expenses, both past and future, including plastic surgery for the scars you gave her." Rebecca started to speak, but Judge Judy's voice cut through like a knife. "I'm not finished. $8,000 for lost wages during her recovery period. $1,200 for the phone you destroyed. $50,000 in punitive damages because of your complete and utter lack of remorse. $25,000 for pain and suffering. And $10,000 for the emotional distress and trauma you caused. That brings the total to $141,200, which you will pay to Ms. Rodriguez immediately." Rebecca's mouth fell open. $140,000. That's completely excessive. You can't do that." Judge Judy smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Oh, Mrs. Ashford, I'm just getting started. I am also ordering that this entire proceeding, including all video evidence of your assault, your racist remarks, and your contemptuous behavior in this courtroom, be broadcast nationally without editing." The words hung in the air like a verdict from the heavens. Themselves, Rebecca's face went pale beneath layers of expensive foundation. For the first time all afternoon, her mouth didn't move. No argument, no sarcasm, no smug expression, just silence. A silence so sharp you could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Judge Judy leaned forward. Her eyes locked on Rebecca's. "You wanted attention, Mrs. Ashford. You wanted everyone to know who you were. Now they will. The world will see exactly who you are, not the woman from the magazines, not the socialite on the charity boards. But the bully who thought she could buy her way out of decency. Arten's head dropped lower, his hands trembling. He whispered something in apology, maybe a prayer, but Rebecca didn't hear him. She was staring straight ahead, her world collapsing quietly. One shattered illusion at a time. Judge Judy continued, her tone cutting yet calm. You came into this courtroom thinking money made you powerful. But true power, Mrs. Ashford, is character, and that's something you can't purchase at Chanel. Then she raised her gavel. Judgment for the plaintiff. Case dismissed. Crack. The sound echoed like thunder. Maria Rodriguez gasped softly, tears filling her eyes, not from pain this time, but from justice finally catching up. The audience erupted into a low murmur of disbelief and vindication. Rebecca's husband leaned toward her, his voice breaking. Becca, it's over. You've ruined everything. She turned to him as if waking from a trance, and for the first time, fear appeared in her eyes. They can't air this. They can't. But they could. And they did. Within hours of the episode's broadcast, clips of Rebecca's meltdown flooded social media. Millions watched, shared, and commented. Headlines read, "Entitled socialite tells Judge Judy you don't scare me." Instantly regrets either husband's company lost its biggest investors within a week. Sponsorships vanished. Invitations stopped coming. The same people who once laughed at her jokes now crossed the street to avoid being seen near her. As for Maria Rodriguez, her story became one of resilience.